It will take time. The wind is blowing. The rain is pouring. Because of the wind and the rain, no one can come here. If they were to endure them, the sky would become bright. Even though the day has come when the sun, moon, and Milky Way are so bright in the sky, few are able to find their way here. When the day is cloudy, people complain about the cloudiness, and when the day is sunny, they complain about the sun. But none of them know the true will of these things. Instead, they become bound to their blame of the weather and of others, and this blame shapes their images. Only the pretty young moon in the sky exists as it is without telling lies. Nature lives adapting to its conditions without fail. But man is ignorant, and so, even though he sees the logic of nature, he remains trapped and dead within himself. Indeed, this is sad beyond expression. The living person is trying to save those who are dead, but the dead do not know the will of the living. The dead are mute, deaf, and blind fools. Great nature exists of its own accord, and lives as it is of its own accord, without ever coming or going. Man sees the whole of creation with the head and eyes like those of a venomous snake. Thus, that snake-like mind is a dead mind, and the living person looks upon this snake mind and sees that it lives as a dead mind. That such a mind would return to the great mind of nature means it will gain the great wisdom of the universe. Living and dying both depend on one's mindset. He who is one with the great mind, the mind of great nature, will live for all eternity in the eternal Buddha Kshetra with nature. It will take time. Human experiences, the regrets in one's heart, and the love one longs for will disappear with the years. Time cures all things. But even though time may have passed, what remains in one's mind will take hold of him. And when it does, he will live as a slave to his emotions, unable to escape from them. The logic of this world is that the lives of all creations of this world would be ones in which they see everything as it is, live as it is, and have no wants in their minds. Such is the true logic. All creations of this world live according to their shapes, and because their shapes are their images, they live according to their images. Man, too, has his image, in which his mind resides, and so he lives according to his image. When the Creator brought forth all creations in the world, he did it so that their minds would exist, depending on their environment. In other words, their minds differ depending on the environment they are in. Their lives differ depending on the countries in which they live. But man has a mind of his own with which he lives. Such a mind lives self-centeredly and trapped within itself. Thus he has no freedom, no great freedom. He has become trapped in his own grave, and is thus dead. His image is one that is a maya of his delusions. Even after he dies, he would relive his delusional life, and so he would suffer in pain and burdens. He is dead, for he has yet to become free. Truth can exist only when there is truth, and such is the true logic. In this universe, there exists the pure bright sun, but because man is blinded by his mind, he cannot see its light. So though man has eyes and ears, he does not really have them, for he is blind and deaf. Even when it comes to living, every person is alive, but because no one knows this, there is not a single living person in this world. A living person is one whose consciousness has become awakened. To be awakened means to gain realization when one becomes one with the whole, which is the perfect truth. One gains realization when one's self no longer exists, and when he is headed to the land of light. To gain realization means that one realizes what he has, for this light has appeared and has shed its light upon it. He who lives in his mold is dead, which is why he does not know he is dead. Man lives because he breathes, while a person who is true lives because his consciousness has become awakened as the perfect consciousness. The will of the universe is one that is alive. Though the living and the dead dwell together, the living will live even after they breathe their last breaths, while the dead will not, for they are indeed dead. Once man lives, then the whole of the universe will live, since all other creations in the universe are already alive. One can only live when one no longer has his self and has thus become truth. That one has become truth means he lives, for his consciousness has become perfect. He lives, for his image has become truth itself. God and Buddha are perfection itself, and all that are reborn as perfection will live inside of man. They are all the infinite universe in which heaven, man, and earth are one. And because this infinite universe is inside man, they are all alive. Because the individual and the whole are one, they are alive. The whole that is within the individual and the individual that is within the whole all live as they are. They are all completely one with the Creator Himself and are thus alive. They are alive, for they are the Creator Himself. They do not live or die, but are simply the Creator Himself. They are the eternal and immortal God Himself, and so are absent of death. The true will of this universe is that man understand the logic being that he can live in the land of truth while he is alive and even after death, and that all are to live as one. When all are one, heaven will be built on earth, and those who live in this heaven will understand the logic that they are able to live in heaven because heaven exists. Understanding this is the truth among truths, as well as the completion of the universe. Because man knows the universe, it has meaning. The universe would have no meaning if there were no man. Man is the master, and as such, there would be no point if there were no man. To live is To, truth. To live as To is truth. Everything that exists must be born again as existence and live in the land that is the eternal and never-dying world. This is truth's ultimate plan. Truth's ultimate plan is the creation of the Jung, body, and Shin, mind. Truth's ultimate plan is that all creations live as truth. The will of this universe is alive, The place that the universe was born from is the universe which is before and beyond the universe. The place that is before and beyond the universe is the foundation of all creations. The whole of creation and the foundation are one, but man does not know this. He does not know this because he is trapped within himself and is thus unable to be one. One can only know and teach what he has in his mind, and so a person who has the universe is able to teach about the universe, just as a person who has truth is able to teach about truth. Only a person who is God and Buddha can teach people about God and Buddha. One whose mind is the universe itself, one whose mind is truth itself, is able to teach people about them since they are him. One can teach the logic of truth only when one is truth itself. The reason man does not know anything is he does not know of truth at all. He does not know it because he has no righteousness within. The logic of the world is that man lives according to his caliber. That one lives according to one's caliber means one would live according to the mind one has. It means that he would live in the world according to his mindset, depending on what he has in his mind. Therefore, he who has falseness in his mind would live his life falsely, while he who has truth would live as truth. Only a person who lives as truth is truth. He remains in the true land as he is without ever changing. He who is completely bereft of this universe will have the whole of the universe. He who is completely bereft of his self will live. He has died only to live again. Only a person who has been reborn is a person who is truth. Truth is the eternal and never-changing origin and progenitor of all creation that is before and beyond the universe. He will live because he is God, who is the eternal and never-changing energy and light. There is no other creation in the world that has a sense of self aside from man, and because he lives with this, he is dead. Life and death are one, because he who has the eternal and never-changing energy and light within him will know no death, for this energy and light is truth itself. One is dead when one does not have the energy and light. A dead person is indeed dead, for he has delusions which are not true. Those delusions are his grave, for they are false, and in this grave he is trapped and dead. He who has energy and light in him is one who is truth, which is God. And because of this, he is alive. Because he has been reborn as this truth, his image is truth. Thus he lives. God and Buddha are the biggest and the most supreme. Though they have allowed for this whole world to live, man is dead and is thus ignorant of their will. This universe is the land of truth just as it is, and it exists as it is. However, man's mind, or in other words, his consciousness, is dead. And so, despite seeing the world, he can neither have it nor understand its logic. Man has lived self-centeredly, thinking that the world, all creations, and he are separate. When man's consciousness has become the most high and the most great, then he has returned wholly to God and Buddha, and thus knows the logic of the world. This world is alive, and the creator of this world is alive as well. And because they are alive, all living creations exist. To a person who has become free of his conceptions and habits, and has been born again with the conceptions of the God who has always existed, life and death do not exist, because his mind has become God. His mind has become the Jung and Shin, and so he is without death. He who has been reborn as Hanornim, as God, is one who has come to have the Jung and Shin. He who has come to have the Jung and Shin knows no death, and it is with that Jung and Shin that he will live forever. The land of this Jung and Shin is the whole of this universe. The past and the future all exist in the land of this Jung and Shin, and in that land is where man will live for all eternity. This is a logic that only a person who has been reborn as the Jung and Shin, and has in him the land of the Jung and Shin knows. The Jung and Shin are the most high and the most great, and so only a person who has come to have the Jung and Shin can know this logic and actually understand it. The infinite world is the world in which all creations are one, and so they all exist inside a person who has the infinite world in him. That they exist in him means he has them in him. That they are in him means that they are his. That they are his means he is entirely them. They are alive. They are alive, for they are living. A person who has his false mind will live in his false delusions, then eventually die. But a person who has the true mind is truth itself. Thus he is absent of death, and will live for all eternity in the land that is true. Since the beginning of mankind, the universe has spoken about so many things with regards to truth. But man has not understood their meanings, nor understood their true logic. Now is the age in which every person can know this logic and live his life in accordance with it. However, even at this time, people are dead in their graves but do not even know it. Even though they have been made to be reborn, they continue to be stubborn in their dead state. They continue to be dead. God is the God of life, the God of eternal life, and the God of rebirth. This God is the God of the living. The dead have no God. Only the living can know God. Only the living can become God. Only the living can live the life of God. Only the living is striving to save the dead. Listen, all of you. Now is the time at which the God who is seated on the great white throne of life and death will lay down his judgment. Those of you in whom God lives will hear the voice of God and know that you are alive. The world is telling you that God exists in man, but you do not know that this God is you. This God is blocked and buried by the strength of your demon. Therefore, a person in whom God is alive lives in eternal heaven while he is alive. Now is the time at which you must hear the voice of God. He who realizes the times and hears the voice of God is the one who is the greatest and the highest in the world. May the whole of mankind become one. May the whole of mankind live in the one land. It is only when people practice a method that transcends beyond religion, that they may all meet in the one land and live there. May everyone wake up from their dreams and step out of their graves. May we build the new heaven together. This new heaven is alive, and it is one that cannot be had by those for whom this universe is not heaven. This universe must be heaven in order for this universe to exist within you in the next world. Listen, all of you. Let us live. Let us live forever. May you change your mindsets, enshrine Buddha and God in your hearts, and have the land of God and Buddha in you so that we may build heaven.